Greetings, Brutal Planet. We are live today. Um, I'm using the stock StreamYard countdown at the end there, so that's why it looks like that's why the background music is a little, you know, iffy. I look like a snowboarder today. I got the stock Bob Marley shirt and the beanie on. So I'm gonna catch some fresh air or whatever snowboarders say these days. I'm obviously out of touch with the snowboarder lingo. We got Steve coming on from Wolves of the Gate. He will be here shortly, probably in about 6 minutes, give or take a minute or two. And we're going to talk about these guys have a new record out called Lost in Translation. It's a cover album, actually, and there's some interesting choices on it. It's a lot of pop songs, to be honest, but there's bands like Incubus and Deftones on there as well. And if you've ever heard Wolves at the Gate, they are metalcore, I would say. Typical kind of metal style, with how do you say it? Melodic vocals, melodic hooks, and kind of like heavy breaks. So it's good stuff. They're also a Christian band, to my knowledge. So I think that helps a little bit. But they're one of those bands that doesn't really make a big deal out of that. So, it's there's a lot of bands that I love from the last, 20 years, in fact, that are Christian bands, or they're heavier bands that kind of have that whole white fire of righteousness thing going for them. To give you an example, Earth Crisis, right? That's probably one of my favorite hardcore bands, and they're vegan. I'm not vegan, but I love Earth Crisis music, and I think that the angle that they're taking, the vegan angle, it kind of helps give them that harder edge because there's real power behind what they're singing about. I'm real excited. I'm going to tell you just to kill some time here. I'm really excited about this thing I discovered at Trader Joe's recently called a brookie. And if you've never experienced this, it's a brownie with a chocolate chip cookie layered on top of it. Holy crap. It's like one of the best things I've ever had. It's so good. So keep that in mind. This is an unofficial endorsement of Trader Joe's brookies. But if you have a Trader Joe's in your neighborhood, I highly recommend that you check out the brookies because shit is top tier. And I got some sparkling coconut water with yuzu there. People talk a lot of talk a lot of smack on Trader Joe's, but I'm a fan. It's it's kind of like a it's kind of like the Target. Well, what was I going to say? The Target or the Ralph's of like the Whole Foods type stores. It's like just a tier lower maybe than Whole Foods, and not even in quality, just in price. It's Whole Foods is crazy expensive, while Trader Joe's actually has a lot of stuff that is reasonably priced, and I like it because it's everywhere in California, and you can run in there and grab like a pre-made salad or a pre-made sandwich for lunch, and you don't have to eat grease-soaked garbage from the 99-cent menu, which I also love. Don't get me wrong, I'm not picking on anyone. If you're a big McDonald's cheeseburger guy, I am too. I'll double quarter pounder, hit me up. But overall, Trader Joe's, they got they got high quality, healthy food, and I support it. I support that. So, what's going on in music these days? There's so many festivals happening. I just saw this story about, and Joey and I talked a little bit about this the other day, but I saw this story about the Blue Ridge Rock Festival, the Blue Mountain Ridge Festival. A bunch of killer bands were supposed to be on that, and it got rained out bad weather. And I saw some video on Papa Roach's, I guess Instagram or TikTok, whatever it was. I think it was Instagram, and they were playing an acoustic set in the parking lot with that kid Oliver Anthony, who has the Richmond North of Richmond song that was kind of went viral, and then Shinedown, actually one of Joey's favorite bands. And so I think that's why he kind of mentioned it. But I just saw the video of that today. What else we got going on? Let's check it. There's a lot of great records coming out. Baroness has a new record coming out Friday. It's Dave Mustaine's birthday today. That is probably a key touch point for us here. So happy birthday, Dave Mustaine. We talked a little smack on Dave Mustaine, I think, when we did our live stream with Scott Mellinger of Zayo, and we were talking about Metallica, and Scott brought up a great point. I might have to cut this out and make a reel about it, where you make these reels or like clips of our long form content anyway. But I could make a reel with this conversation we had about how literally every Megadeth is like record is like a response. Every Megadeth record is like a response to a Metallica record. And it's because as soon as he started talking about this, I remember so well, because one of the first CDs I ever bought, like compact disc, I was buying cassette tapes before this, but one of the first CDs I ever bought was Countdown to Extinction. I think it was the second CD I ever bought. The first was Helmet, Meantime, if that dates me. But I remember that era, and it was when Metallica released the Black record. And so all these kind of like thrash, the leaders of thrash kind of release these little more mainstream produced records. So you had Countdown to Extinction, Megadeth put out, and then Anthrax actually picked up John Bush at that time and put out Sound of White Noise, which was produced by Dave Jordan, who did Alice in Chains. And honestly, that's one of my favorite Anthrax records. I love that album. But it's the only band that kind of didn't do that and smooth out their sound a little bit for radio was Slayer, I guess. So props to Slayer for not going crazy. But we got Steve coming on. I'm going to add him in right now. And let's see. Steve, how are you, man?
Good. How you doing?
Really good, man. I realized today that Joey talked to you about a year ago before your new record, the record you guys put out in 2022 came out. So I kind of watched some of that this morning just to make sure I'm not retreading old ground.
Fair enough.
So just to get started, I like to ask, excuse me, I like to ask bands for their origin story. Just because if, I'm sure a lot of people that tune in know who you guys are, but for people that don't, like just a little bit of background, however deep you want to go.
Yeah. Like how the band started.
Yeah. How you guys came together.
Yeah. So in a lot of ways, it was like, it was a long time coming. I had been writing music, just by myself for probably 4 or 5 years. And at least ever since I was like a junior in high school, and I was always trying to start bands, but we would have like 2 or 3 people, but like missing a bassist or missing a guitarist or missing a singer. It's like I was always just missing enough people to make a band. So I just kept writing, and because I just loved it, I had tons of songs that, even if they never saw the light of day, I just enjoyed, making music. And then in college, really the catalyst was I kind of just befriended. So I played soccer in college, and one of the incoming freshmen when I was a junior, we ended up just, I just took him under my wing, and he was a real cool guy. And we found out we liked a lot of the same music, and I found out he was a drummer, and I was like, hey, have you ever played in bands or anything? And one thing led to another. I was like, I have some songs, and I literally just recorded guitar, just the crappiest recordings you ever heard in your life. Um, and I sent it to him, and I said, if you want, you could just write some drums to it. Maybe we could like make some music. And he literally wrote them all the drum parts. He wrote them in his head, showed up and just played them front to back. And I was like, I felt like I'd struck gold, you know?
Wow.
So he was, yeah, so talented, so creative, and he was super important. His name's Ryan Connolly. He was really important to kind of establishing our sound, because I liked really aggressive music, and he was like super busy on the drums and creative. And so from there, I just started pulling in guys that I knew from college. You know, Jeremy, I knew played guitar. We'd played music a couple times together. Ben pulled him in, and we were just a four piece. And I wanted us to find a singer, but we didn't. And so I did all the clean singing, and we played our first show as a four piece. And then it was like I lived in a house at college, and we would play these rowdy house shows. I mean, they were nuts. The house was not structurally sound to begin with, but after the shows, it was worse. Like I was honestly concerned a lot of the time that the floor was just going to give out, because there would be like 100 people just stuffed into this tiny house. And one of those people was this guy named Colin Jones, who had, you know, screamed in a bunch of bands. And he just came up to us after like the second show we did at our house and was like, "You guys need a screamer." And we're like, "Yeah, we do."
Nice.
and so that he basically
He added himself to the band.
he did, yeah. Yeah, I remember Jeremy said to me, he's like, "I didn't realize that he was joining the band." And I was like, "I kind of didn't either, but it was exactly what we wanted and what we needed." And so, yeah, obviously there's nothing strategic about what we did, nothing clever, but just a bunch of guys just that like to make music, and um, that's how it all came together.
That's awesome. So I also like to ask about influences, but you guys, your new record is basically a cover album,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of interesting stuff on there. There's a couple that are, you know, I would expect, you know, given
Mhm.
your sound, but talk about the logic behind this record and kind of the song choices and everything.
Yeah, you know, it's always funny to me, um, what people think when a band covers music. There's always the thoughts of, "Oh, you think you could do it better," or, "Oh, you're trying to just get popular," or "You're not creative anymore." All these sort of like stupid things. And for us, like people forget, like I play music because it's fun. Like I have fun doing it, and so for us, it was just honestly, it's something I've always wanted to do for years. And part of it is just kind of working up the guts to just go, we're just going to do it. I don't really care what people think, and that's really it. Um, and and so, you know, it was really hard picking songs, really hard. But we tried to pick songs that we felt like, yeah, could help people understand why our music sounds the way that it does, but also at the same time pick songs that we felt that we could we wanted our covers to sound like it could have been one of our songs, had you never heard that song before. And so that was kind of the goal too. um, and as well, it really started off as like a writing exercise for me, because there's all this music that I love, and I've been making records for 15 years. We're going on our sixth full length. We have like three other EPs, just tons of music. And to me, I've just been trying to throw out the playbook of like, what are the standard things that I go to? And the Heathens was the first song that I covered, and I just did it for fun because I just thought it was such an interesting song and dark and catchy. But I heard a lot of like aggressive elements in it, and I was just like, let me just try it out. And I just did it for fun, sent it to the guys, and they were stoked. I sent it to the label, and they're like, "You need to do more of these." And so that's kind of how it all snowballed. So people think that we have some sort of like grand plan. Just no, it's just having fun in this room, and that's how it happened.
That's awesome, man. No, I'm someone who loves music of all kinds. Like I'm constantly listening to music, so I appreciate it because I love pop music. I love a great pop song. I don't know if you know who Max Martin is, but
No.
he's this really famous songwriter who's had like a number one Billboard hit like for the last 20 years. He wrote basically and produced "Hit Me Baby One More Time" by Britney Spears was like
Oh, okay. Yeah,
one of
yeah.
the first, but I just respect all that kind of stuff. So to see you guys cover like Billie Eilish or some of the 30 Seconds to Mars even,
Mhm.
it's really cool for me to hear like aggressive takes on some of these songs, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing is for most people that are into bands that are like heavier or aggressive, some of their favorite bands they'd be shocked by, and so it shouldn't be that shocking anymore because music's becoming less and less like genre focused, and there's a
Hmm.
lot more blending of genres, and that's part of the reason why I like the idea of doing a cover album, is to kind of ease people into that idea, I guess, for our band in particular.
Yeah, and you may bring new people into heavy music that haven't ever experienced it because of one of these songs too.
Yeah, and to be honest, like, so growing up, I'd always known about Michael Jackson, and Michael Jackson was like kind of like he was like at that time like the joke that all comedians made jokes about,
Hmm.
um, and then I remember hearing Alien Ant Farm's cover of Smooth Criminal, and somebody saying that's actually a Michael Jackson song. I was like, what? And then I went on that rabbit hole of like listening to all these Michael Jackson songs. I'm like, oh, he's not this like weird creepy guy. Well, debatable,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, I'm
but
with you on that.
yeah,
I won't go down that
yeah,
wormhole
we
right
don't
now.
need to go down that wormhole. But
I love
anyway,
MJ and
yeah, but I
Folks
went back
Together.
and listened to a lot of that music, and I was like, wow, this is incredible. And
Yeah.
so it can also do that as well. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I think it's cool.
No, it's really cool. It's cool to see a band branching out and doing those kind of songs or because like I said, I listen to so much different stuff throughout the day, and I think to your point about genres kind of becoming less of a thing, it's like that's one of the benefits of the streaming world and just having access to any albums at your fingertips. It's like
Hmm.
everybody listens to everything now, and you have stuff coming out like the Jelly Roll stuff, where it's
Yeah.
just a conglomeration of so many different genres. It's just done so organically.
Yeah, and honestly, something that I had been kind of working through myself creatively was just the thought of, the things that I've heard people say to me in the past, like, oh, you guys can't do that, or you can't pull this off, or that doesn't belong in X. And
Hmm.
I always hated those comments. And the tough thing is there was times in my life where I believed that, and I think because of kind of where I've developed and how I think about music, and creatively, um, that's why I think it was easy for me to consider doing this cover album. And then hopefully, because there's definitely going to be some curveballs, on our new album. Everybody thinks that we're not writing new music. We've got lots of new music. This was fun. So hopefully it gets people set up for some different looks for our band.
Will you guys do any shows to play these songs live at all?
Yeah, we're heading out in about a month. We're going to be in the UK and Europe for not too long, 2 weeks. So we're going to play those songs out there, and we've got one more, just one-off show. There's a band called Haste the Day that's coming back after, yeah, being on hiatus for a long time, and they asked us to play one of their comeback shows. So
Awesome.
we're excited to play, to play that show, and we're definitely going to toss in a cover or two. Um, but yeah, that's all we got for the rest of the year.
That's cool. I was listening to the interview you did with Joey, and I was just thinking about how so many of my favorite heavy bands of the last 20 years are Christian.
Hmm.
And a lot of them don't, a lot of them don't wave that flag necessarily,
Hmm.
but I think it's a cool thought process. Like bands like Under Oath and Norma Jean, I think are some of the best like heavy bands of the last 20 years.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of cool that I feel like, because I know you guys are kind of in that realm as well. But I guess speak to that a little bit. Like, do you guys, how do you deal with that now? Is it something that people come at you about, or do people pretty much ignore it? Is it something that you guys even bring up outside of just the lyrical content, or?
Well, for me personally, it's a massive part of who I am. What I came to understand about, um, because I grew up in the church, and you think you know a lot of things, but you're like incredibly shallow. That's what I realized about myself. And when I actually like challenged all the things that I just kind of blindly believed, I started to realize there was some real depth, and also that there was, um, I'm not who I thought I was. So, um, yeah, my faith in what Christ has done, and my great need for that, is a big part of who I am and what I want to, I guess, express in our music. Um, really a lot of what I want to express is, yeah, my great need and the great gratitude I have for understanding, yeah, what the gospel entails and what God has done through that. Um, we definitely, it's a mixed bag. There's people who will say, um, keep your keep your beliefs out of the music, or I'm just like, everybody believes stuff that they say all the time, so you
Yeah.
just don't like what I believe, and that's fine.
Right.
You don't have to listen.
Hmm.
uh like, if you go to a restaurant and you don't like what's on the menu, you don't go back to the chef and say, I don't like any of your decisions. You just go somewhere else. You
Hmm.
don't have to eat the food. And so, but then there's also the whole, Christian community. They have an idea of what they want you to be, and there are people that get upset if you're not X, Y, or Z, or if you don't live up to their false standard for whatever. And so it's tough because, yeah, there's like, you're either like too religious for some people, or you're not religious enough. And to me, it's far more important for me to stick to, um, I guess, the integrity of what I believe in. My faith is not a marketing tool whatsoever. Um, the God that I believe and trust and rest my salvation on is not a tool that I use to get our band big. Nor do I want it to be something that makes people think I'm very pious or religious. I just
Hmm.
want to. I want to just be. I want to exist as Steve, the sinner who needed grace, and God gave it to him, and just speaking as a man, to other people.
That's very cool. I feel like
So.
the metal community is so diverse, right? Like there's so
Mhm.
many different types of music and different types of people. Like Rob Halford was openly gay
Mhm.
early on, and there's trans, like the guy from Life of Agony transition and all that kind of stuff. And like sometimes I feel like Christian music or like religious music might be like the one thing that sometimes metalheads are intolerant about, where
Yeah. Yeah, I've gotten a lot of messages about that, that like, honestly, I had this guy like send me a very, very long message about how I don't belong. Um,
that's
and
terrible.
and he's not the first one, but the reality is, you know, um, for me, I guess my heart just kind of breaks for people like that, because obviously they're hurting, and I have a
Yeah.
feeling that they're probably hurt by maybe a church or somebody tied to Christianity, or
Hmm.
or maybe they're just hurting. I don't know. But
Yeah.
the reality is like, you know, um, it's very, what's the word I'm looking for? Uh, it's the antithesis of what underground music is. It's like, it's supposed to be for anyone.
Yeah.
And then if you're saying you can't because I don't fit into your category, it's like, well, you're kind of missing the point. So
Yeah. I grew up in Utah, in like the Salt Lake City area. Straight edge music was very huge when I was a kid, and
yeah.
so it's like, and I'm not straight edge, or any of that, but I feel like even with Christianity or straight, it's like wherever you draw that energy from to
Hmm.
channel into your music, I think that's a beautiful thing, whether it's church. I liked what you said in the interview you did with Joey. You said some people have this transformative thing that they write about, and it's like drug addiction, or they're coming out of addiction, or maybe a loss in a family, or like a breakup or something like that. For you, it's your faith.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, and yeah, it's a very strange experience for me. Or the past, well, we've been a band for 15 years, but we've been in the public eye for at least 10 of that, and for people to criticize uh, me for um, speaking honestly is yeah, it's a hard pill to swallow, and I need to be careful to not feel antagonized, and just um, help people understand. And that's really my desire. Um, I want people. It's kind of like with me, for me coming to faith, it was kind of like my eyes were open to this beautiful painting that I'd never seen before, and I can't look away. And all I want to do is describe this painting to other people so they can see how beautiful it is.
Mm.
And so that's my goal. And so I don't want to get frustrated and antagonized by people who don't see what I see. So
Yeah, and I mean, going back to the straight edge thing, it's like a band like Earth Crisis is one of my favorite bands, and
mhm.
they just draw this white fire of righteousness energy from. They're vegan, they're like against animal
Yeah,
like
yeah,
cruelty and all that kind of
yeah.
stuff, and it's like wherever you get that from. Another band I love is Candiria, and they have a very similar kind of leaning to you guys. They're maybe not as, but Under Oath as well. Like,
Mhm,
I think more recently they've kind of said they don't consider themselves in that realm
mhm.
anymore, but still all that music is fantastic. And for someone to look at that and go like, oh, I'm not gonna be cool with that because it's religious people, it's like you're ignorant. You're just as bad as the people that you're mad at.
Yeah, you don't have to like it, but you don't have to. You also don't have to tell us that we shouldn't. We're not invited. It's
Hmm.
like I'm like last time I checked. We're in America. I can make whatever music I want.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's all
Yeah,
good.
and everyone's got opinions, and it's like now with social media, everyone has the ability to like directly communicate their opinions with you.
Yes, yeah. Because the reality is, maybe a couple people have said that directly to my face.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of really bold people behind their phones and their keyboards. So
Yeah, I think people in general, are good natured about all of this type of stuff, and open minded. So
yeah, yeah. By and large, it's been cool. We've had great experiences playing in all sorts of places, and we're really open about our faith. And there's lots of bands and shows we've played where people are not interested in that, but there's been respect. So yeah, it is cool. We're glad to be a part of it, and glad that people give us a chance.
yeah, no, it's awesome, and I don't want to spend the whole time talking to you about that, but I think it's
No,
something
this is
to
cool.
touch on. But
Yeah, for sure.
do you guys, what are your plans for the future after this cycle with this album? You said you have a lot of stuff written. Are you guys planning on getting back in and putting out some new material in the near future?
Yeah, really, as soon as possible. I mean, I already have an album worth of music, more than an album worth of music right now, and we want to write more songs as well. Like I said, we've been doing this for a long time, and we really want, for some reason, for myself personally, I feel really like driven and uh, really driven to make something different than what we've done before, and challenge myself to think outside the box. And so that's why I want to, we could sit down and record an album right now, but I I don't think I don't have all the songs. It's a really weird thing. It's kind of like you there's songs out there that you haven't written and you don't know what they are, but they're out there. And so that's kind of feels like a space exploration. um,
Yeah.
you don't exactly know what you're looking for, but you just want to keep searching. And obviously we won't do that forever. We'll put an album together, but um, yeah, that's what I'm pretty dedicated to right now.
That's awesome. What kind of stuff do you do when you're not doing music? Do you have any like interesting hobbies or like, anything that you love, any passions outside of music?
Yeah, so um, I've worked in the trades my whole life. Um, anytime we were off the road, I was a carpenter, and so I was doing carpentry, even though a lot of times I didn't need to. I just I work. That's just kind of my thing. I'm not very good.
Oh, did we lose you? Uh-oh. Looks like he froze up on us. Let's see if things come back. I think I only got about 5 more minutes of his time anyway. You froze up on us, Steve. I don't know if you can. Let me see if there's something I can. No, I can't really tweak anything. Oh, there we go. There we go. We may be in. Oh, there he is. You there? You just froze up on us a little bit. I need to have. It's funny because I actually need to have. There's a. There he is. There you are.
I don't. It
No
felt
worries,
like,
man.
yeah. I don't know. I'm not
Something
sure what
froze up.
happened.
You were talking about being a carpenter, though.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, when I'm off the road, so having done that for a long time, I work for a friend of mine who has a construction company, and I do like all of his designs and uh, architectural prints. That's so
That's
I don't.
crazy.
Yeah, I don't swing the hammer anymore, even though I do that a ton around my house. I bought a house that was in need of a lot. So I've been slowly. That's like the other thing that consumes my time is,
Project
yeah. Like I built an addition off the back of our house. I just finished that.
by yourself.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah, and I'm in the middle of remodeling our kitchen right now. It's so I'm in the process of running the electrical. So
That's super
that's
cool, man.
yeah, it takes a lot. That takes a lot of my free time.
I have some relatives who they've been buying real estate in Albuquerque and kind of
Oh
like
wow,
just run down real secret weapon is my cousin's husband who is a carpenter. Like they'll go into an apartment and this guy's just like a machine. He's like
that's awesome.
like builds the cabinets, installs the toilets, hangs the drywall.
It's hard work, man.
Yeah, yeah. It's fulfilling though to build something like that. In the same way I'm sure it is to build a record or a song.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, there are a lot of similarities to it. For me, I really enjoy the things that I enjoy the most are actually designing the idea, and then I love finished carpentry. That's like my favorite trade, I would say. And my least favorite is drywall.
Do you find yourself applying any of your carpentry skills to the music side of things
um,
in any
no,
way? Like, are there any parallels?
I think the parallels are just in how my mind works. You know, both positively and negatively. For me, um, I can't. I can picture a lot of things in my head, like I'm pretty good that way. But if I can't kind of see the end product or what it's supposed to be, I kind of hit some roadblocks. But because I've been doing the trades for so long, once I kind of know what it's supposed to look like, I can execute it. And the same thing with the song. Once I kind of identify what its identity is, I go, oh, okay, I know what we need to do here. So
Got it.
Yeah, so it's like very similar, like creative skills, I guess.
That's awesome. Do you have a hard stop at 12:30 or
Um, no, the next one is at 4. So if you got some more questions. Oh,
okay, cool.
yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I don't want to
4
I
my
don't want to
time. Yeah.
keep you too long, but I also want to be considerate if you have stuff going on,
No,
other
no.
stuff going on. Let's talk about some of the songs that you guys are covering. One of my favorite songs on there is "Sweetness," the Jimmy Eat World song, and I guess talk about a little bit about that and you know what you like about that song or why you guys chose it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, long time ago, our bass player Ben, I always told him, I said, I would love to cover "Sweetness" by Jimmy Eat World. Probably 15 years ago, I said that to him, and I had been saying it like systematically for years on after that. And so once we kind of realized this was going to be more than just like a song, and we had to start picking some songs, that was one of the ones that I was like, I have to do it. One, because Jimmy Eat World is like probably one of my favorite bands, top 5 for sure. And the thing that's so cool about the song is there is a really, I love this like push and pull of like darkness and melody, you know, and the song does that back and forth. And it's such a unique song in the fact that it doesn't have your standard sort of um, structure. And um, the melodies are just so good. And it has, there's an energy to it. That's what I love about Jimmy Eat World's music, is that there's always an energy to it. And um, I that's just something I pull from, you know, myself creatively. So covering that song was a lot of fun. It was also super challenging. All the songs were super challenging to cover because you're just thinking about these really incredible artists and vocal performances. And so um, yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of fun tracking vocals for that song.
The message of that song too is basically just
Oh,
a
so,
love of music.
hey, I'm sorry. Could I just one
Go ahead.
second?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all right.
All finished.
Okay, great. Are you gonna come back Friday or no?
No, it's all done.
Oh, you're all good? All right. Here, let me get you checked out. Where's my pen?
We'll give him just a second. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting songs on this track list that I want to ask Steve about. I think I definitely have a question about the. Oops. Give it 1 second. I definitely want to ask him about the choice of the Deftones song because that is not a typical song. Diamond Eyes is not the song that I would typically see someone choosing. It's an interesting choice. All right.
Sorry about that.
Oh, you're good, man.
Yeah.
This is all. Joey and I were talking about this. We like doing this format, and Joey couldn't actually be here. He would have been on the stream with us today, but he has a death in the family. His grandmother passed, so he's out attending a celebration of life. But,
it's nice that they could look at it that way.
Yeah. Joey and I have been, but anyway, this format has been better for us because it's a much more casual kind of like conversation rather than a like stiff interview type thing.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I was going to ask you about the choice of the Deftones Diamond Eyes because that's not like the typical song that I would see a band covering. It's kind of an interesting choice.
Yeah, I mean, they're another band that's had like a huge influence on me, and a lot of bands. They're another one of those bands that know how to just make very melodic but like dark, and heavy sounds, and Chino as a vocalist is just so good. And so for me, that's why it was kind of fun to cover that song. I actually, during COVID, I did like an acoustic, cover of that song that I was just posting on Instagram, just, for fun. I called them Corona covers. I just did like acoustic covers of songs, and that was one of the ones I did because I was just listening to it and I was like, man, I wonder what this song would sound like just stripped away. And that's how we actually did the song on the album, not acoustic, but like tried to strip away all the heavy guitars for people. I know lots of people that can't get into Deftones, and I don't know why. And I was like, all right, well, maybe this would be like a cool way to reimagine the song. And yeah, so that was actually pretty easy. I mean, they did all the hard work. They made a great song. So
Yeah. They have so many great songs. Like they have so much heavy stuff, but then they have so many great melodic songs, like Digital
yeah,
Bath
Digital Bath.
Sex Tape is another one. But some of their later stuff too. They're one of those bands I feel like, of that era, like the Korn, Limp Bizkit era, that they kind of continued to be really good. Like,
Yeah.
no disrespect to Korn and Limp Bizkit, but I don't think they have the
Yeah.
track record that the Deftones do.
I think they're different kind of artists, really.
Yeah.
Deftones in their artistry, you can kind of see the arc of it's obvious they're still chasing after something,
Mhm.
creatively, which you kind of like to see with bands that you like.
Yeah.
That's why you get excited about the next album, is to see what the progression is from the last one. And that's kind of the hope, is that for any artist that they're just kind of still kind of chasing after, like still haven't written that song, or still haven't made that album, even though they've made great music.
Yeah. Another example of that on this track list is Incubus, a band that, I got way into them early on because I loved Mike Patton and Faith No More. And that first Science record, that early Incubus stuff kind of has that sound. And then they changed. And then they changed again.
Yeah.
And then they changed again. And every
Yeah.
song, every album has an almost completely different feel to it. And you got to love it. You got to love that.
And they're so unique, and that's what I mean. You go from Deftones to Incubus, these bands are so unique. Jimmy Eat World, so unique.
Yeah.
There's just a very clear fingerprint that those bands and artists have. And with Incubus, to me, so many people just know them for Pardon Me, but like, yeah, I learned tons of their songs growing up, because Mike, their guitar player, is just mind-blowingly good.
Yeah.
He's highly underrated.
He's so like, if you listen to Science, some of the stuff he's doing in the like late 90s is like glitch. Like he has these like glitch transitions on that album that I'm like, how is he doing that?
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is even just pulling off what he records, and he's the only guitar player, and his spaceship of a pedal board, and like, if I had that in front of me, like the pedal board would win that battle every night, but he dominates it. And so that, and Brendan Boyd, what a singer. I mean, he's so good, such a unique voice, and melodically as well. Like his melodic choices are so cool. So yeah, it's so cool to go back to these artists. And for me, vocally, it was very inspiring just going back and actually really thinking about, not just like listening for like kind of blind enjoyment, but like going back and kind of analyzing these songs from these artists and learning the chord structures and kind of seeing it, how they're approaching it, because I have to recreate it, so it was, it's been really cool.
How did you come to decide on a Billie Eilish?
I stumbled upon that song. I don't know how I found it. It's not like I was just like typing in Billie Eilish, going to her page. It's a song that's like not that popular from her.
Yeah.
Which any song that's still not popular from her is still massive.
I know.
But it was a song that they wrote for a soundtrack, and it was so simple, and really unique. And I remember the first time I heard it, I was like, I don't even know what this structure is. And and so I definitely wanted there to be a few songs on the album that would make people go like, they're doing what? You know? Um, and like I like that some people seeing on the track listing, it made them mad. I'm like, okay, I don't, you know, which to me is kind of, I kind of like the challenge of it. And I heard, because if you've ever seen any live performances from her, I stumbled upon one on YouTube, you know, the old YouTube wormhole. But like they're at times they're like aggressive, even though the music doesn't sound like it. And then I started to understand, I'm like, oh, I kind of hear the energy that's behind it, even though like there's so much that's so subdued. And so um yeah, that's what kind of made me go, yeah, I want to take on a challenge like that for this. And that's honestly one of my favorites, because I feel like we flipped it on its head the most.
That's the best. Those are the best covers, I think. Like I
Yeah.
don't know if you've heard like Typo Negative does a cover of Paranoid by Black Sabbath, and it's like slowed way down, and, it's like,
Yeah.
and then it breaks it off into a completely different song almost. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, it's just, yeah, the best covers and when artists kind of stay true to the song but make it their own, you know,
Yeah.
identifiably theirs, but also keeping true to the artist.
And Billie Eilish definitely has some of that like new metal influence. We did some story that was in the New York Times, did a thing about new metal making a resurgence,
Mm-hmm.
and they called her out as like having like new metal style, like the baggy pants and the like
Yeah,
dog
yeah,
collar or whatever.
yeah, definitely, yeah, yeah. It is weird having grown up through some of that stuff, see it come back, and you're
Yeah.
like, I remember when that was cool at a time, and then I remember when it got lame too, and
Yeah.
now it's back and it's cool again.
Yeah.
It just reminds me, you know, the year I was born. That's all.
Cycles. Yeah. So were you born? You seem so young.
I'm 30. I'm 37.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're not that much younger than me. I'm 44. So
Yeah, like I'm young to some people and old to others. So it's just how it goes, you know.
yeah, I mean, age is a number, right? Like it's kind
It
of.
is. It is.
I was thinking today about how, in the music world, you look at someone like Willie Nelson or Mick Jagger, and then like someone like Joe Biden or some of these politicians, not to call out Joe Biden specifically,
No,
but like
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Mitch McConnell or like,
Yeah.
Diane Fight, like they're like they're like having strokes in real time on TV. And then
It
you have
is
these
just
guys.
a number.
Yeah, music. And I think music keeps you young to some degree too.
Yeah, you know, and some musicians try to look like they're still young.
Yeah.
You know, that's part of it too, you know, but
Clinging to
yeah,
the.
yeah, exactly. But the reality is, you know, it's hard when your image is a huge part of your music. Thankfully, it's not been a big part of it for us. I mean, I've pretty much looked the same most of my musical career.
Yeah.
You know, just slightly different haircuts. That's all.
The hack for that is to be like Kiss or Slipknot, where you're
Yeah,
like
I know.
anonymously masked and no one ever sees your face, and then you never change, you never grow old.
Honestly, you know, I remember not thinking like masks were cool at all growing up, even though like some, you know, I did like, there was Slipknot music I did like. They were the only band with masks that I liked any music from. But
Yeah.
now at this point in my life, I kind of, it's not because I think I'm famous or anything, but the idea of just like my person being removed from the music, I really love the idea of that, because the music just has to speak, you know, and it's not tied to this person. And I really do like the idea of that. And it's interesting how differently the music can be perceived or judged, and maybe positively or negatively. I don't know, but I was literally thinking about that last week. So it's so funny you brought that up.
Have you heard the band Sleep Token?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I'm like, when I saw what they were doing, I'm like, that's brilliant. They're like they're totally like druids or something, and it's almost like a cult.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is so genius because it's like a new spin on the mask or the makeup thing too.
Yeah, like obviously at first my first thought was like, oh, another band that's gonna put masks on, but
Right.
because that's just maybe that's a bad default that I have.
Sure.
But
I have it too,
yeah,
for sure.
okay. Because it's a really bold move, but I do love the concept behind it. I do love the idea. Um,
The
you
music is
know,
pretty good too.
yeah, it is. They've got I really appreciate the creativity, and yeah, just doing something different. I mean, really, to me, they're reinterpreting a very Deftonesy sound for a different generation,
Yeah.
um, which I think it's cool. And a lot of bands have tried to do that, and it's hard. And obviously, they have a ton of other influences, a lot of things that are very different, but that's what I kind of see. Because Deftones really is a band that is super heavy, but is mixing in these other genres that makes them so wild and unique. And I think that's what Sleep Token is. That's what they have creatively going for them.
They're so influential. I feel like even like the screamo genre, like Glass bands like Glassjaw and the
Hmm.
Used, like that was Deftones influence. But now I hear it too in bands like Sleep Token. Or have you heard Loathe? Have you heard the band
Hmm.
Loathe? They
Yeah,
said they
Loath. Yeah.
very Deftones influenced.
Oh yeah.
Great stuff, but
Yeah, and it's I think it's cool, especially because the younger generation doesn't know they don't know those bands. It's harder for guys like me who like Deftones is like your band, and you
right.
hear a band so
You're like,
heavily
this is a
influenced,
knockoff.
you're like, oh, this does sound like X, But you could say that about anything, and
Totally.
you could say that about every single song we've ever written because that's all music is at the end of the day.
Right.
But it is cool that bands are taking are taking something that was cool and unique and giving it their own creative spin,
Their own,
and
yeah.
yeah, bringing something new to the scene, because it really takes bands that are thinking forward, not trying to copy what's popular presently.
Yeah. I think it's Picasso who has the quote that's like, good artists borrow, great artists steal, or something like
Yeah.
that. But it's like everything's influenced by everything.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
well, let's wrap it up, man. I really appreciate your time. I hope you will come back through when you guys are promoting your next record or your next tour. Hopefully
Yeah.
Joey can jump in next time too.
Yeah. No, it was great. It's always nice to just have a relaxing conversation.
Yeah, man. I love the record. I listened to it all the way through a couple times, and
Oh,
you
cool.
guys do some amazing stuff on it. So
Awesome. Well,
it's
I'm
it's
glad
fun.
it's nice to hear somebody's thoughts on all the other songs we haven't released. So that's
Yeah,
cool.
and you guys have, honestly, the production quality is great. Like you guys are really. I mean, you're obviously professionals. You've been doing this a long time. You guys are
Hmm.
tuned into what you're doing, and everything sounds great too. So
That's awesome. Yeah. Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
it's great to hear heavy takes on some of these a heavier version of Sweetness, for example,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
in
Yeah. I know what you
track.
mean.
All right. Well, thanks again for your time, man. Definitely appreciate it, and let's talk again soon.
All right. Sounds good. See ya.
Take care of yourself. All right. We're gonna wrap it up today. We have, just so you know, if you're watching, we've booked a few more bands. Tomorrow we have Khan from Heart of a Coward, which is a British band, and I had never heard of them until we booked them, and I was listening to some of their stuff. It's great. It's in a similar vein to what Wolves of the Gate does. It's kind of metalcore with screaming and melodic vocals, but there's a lot of that. I mean, that's what Mixie is. It's what a lot of metals, to speak again to the influence of the Deftones. The scream sing thing has become very prevalent in the metal world, and there's a lot of bands. I think Underoath was one of the bands I left off that list of screamo bands that kind of were influenced by the Deftones. And there was this whole world of bands like Burns Red, or these guys, for example, that have the scream and sing vocalist, the clean vocals and the screamer. I'm trying to think of what some of the first band. I think Underoath was one of the first bands I heard to really doing that. and then it became a pretty prevalent thing. But again, Deftones, one of the first bands to really have that kind of transitional thing. So let me just real quick read off a list of who we got coming up in the month of September for the Brutal Planet BPM live shows, live streams. We got because I just booked 3 more artists today. We got tomorrow we got Khan Tassan from Heart of a Coward, and then of Carnifex. And then Igor Amadeus Cavalera. I'm excited about this one of Go Ahead and Die. And that is Max Cavalera's son, for those of you that don't know. And the Go Ahead and Die stuff is great. It's got Max on it, of course. But it'll be interesting to talk to Igor about, the stuff that they're doing and working with his father, which is always cool. I see that a lot more today. And I like it. There's the band Coldwords, who we talked to a week or so ago. Paul from Coldwords, he's working with his sons, and I love it. You love to see it, Keep it in the family, metalheads. Anyway, we are going to sign off. Thanks to Steve again for spending some time chatting with us. Very cool guy. Great stuff too. They have, just so you know, Wolves at the Gate has an EP with, I think, 5 of the songs that are on this full length that's coming out of covers. So you can go listen to like Breaking the Habit by Linkin Park, and Sweetness, I think, is on there. And I think the Incubus song. But some of the more like radically shifted ones, like the Billie Eilish track, are, and Diamond Eyes, are might not be. Diamond Eyes might not be. Actually, let me just look, because I was listening to this earlier. And I have I'm privileged, so I have the advance copy, since the full length isn't out yet. But let's see. Okay. Yeah. Heathens. So Breaking the Habit. They got Breaking the Habit, Pardon Me, Stupid Deep, which is a John Bellion song, Attack, which is 30 Seconds to Mars, and Heathens, the 21 Pilots. So the Deftones stuff isn't on here. There's a lot of good tracks that aren't on here. So let me just, before we sign off, let me give you the date. Give you the official release date for the full record. I know it's coming up pretty soon, but I don't want to be incorrect. So I'm going to check my source real quick here. And we might have some news. I just got an email about some upcoming. Oh, where is that? Here we go. Okay. 22nd. There it is. Lost in Translation. Wolves at the Gate, Lost in Translation, September 22nd. The full record's out. Go listen to the EP right now. You can hear some of the stuff, the spins they're putting on the Incubus track. Sweetness is not on there. Is it? No, it's not. So you're going to have to wait until the 22nd to hear that. But great stuff. Again, props to Steve. Thank you very much for joining us. And y'all out there, keep it brutal. And we'll see you tomorrow with Kantasan from Heart of Coward. Take care of yourselves.